Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I wish to meet right now. My name is Muhammad Anas Fadli bin Ma'azal from BA242 Group 2A. Today I would like to present about sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a type of harassment technique that related to a sexual nature and the unwelcome or inappropriate promise of reward in exchange of sexual favors. Sexual harassment include a range of actions from mild transgression to sexual abuse or assault. Harassment can occur in many different social settings such as workplace, the home, school, church, and etc. Harasser or victim may be of any gender, any of male or female. In most modern legal contexts, sexual harassment is illegal. Laws surrounding harassment generally do not prohibit simple teasing, offhand comment, or minor isolated incident. This is due to the fact that they do not impose general civility code. In the workplace, harassment may be considered illegal when it is frequent or severe, thereby creating a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as the victim demotion, firing, or quitting. The legal and social understanding of sexual harassment, however, varies by culture. Sexual harassment by an employer is a form of illegal employment discrimination. For many business or organizations, preventing sexual harassment and defending employees from sexual harassment charges have become key goals of legal decision making. Although sexual harassment may involve either man or woman as the victim, men are not frequent victims of sexual harassment and in fact pose more as the harasser. Previous studies have shown that sexual harassment incidents frequently involve a male harasser and a female victim. As such, research on harassment of men is much less conducted, even though the problem has actually existed for many decades. Research on sexual harassment started off in the late 1970s. Most of the initial studies were descriptive, mainly to examine the frequency of occurrence, the characteristic of the perpetrators and victim, and the effect on victim. The perception of sexual harassment were also examined and were found to vary by demographic characteristics such as age. For example, older respondents tend to perceive sexual harassment differently in that they would be more likely to regard an incident as sexual harassing as compared to younger ones. The next is the type of harassment. Sexual harassment have two types of sexual harassment. First is quid pro quo and hostile environment. Quid pro quo, the meaning is this for that. Sexual harassment occurs when it started or implied that an academic or employment decision about a student or employee depends upon whether the student or employee submit to conduct of a sexual nature. Quid pro quo sexual harassment also occurs when it started or implied that an individual must submit to conduct of a sexual nature in order to participate in a university program or activity. So, for example, if an employee is made to believe that a promotion is likely if the employee goes on a date with the employee's supervisor, the employee is possible being subjected to quid pro quo sexual harassment. Next is hostile environment. Hostile environment sexual harassment occur when unwelcome conduct of sexual nature create an intimidating, threatening, or abusive working or learning environment, or is so severe, persistent, or pervasive that it affects a person's ability to participate in or benefit from a university program or activity. While a person engaging in harassing behavior most often has some form of power or authority over the person being harassed. That is not always the case. The harasser can be a peer of a person being harassed. Sometimes the harasser is harassing a person who has power of them. For example, a supervisor can sexually harass a supervisor, or a student can sexually harass a faculty of a member. So the next is sexual harassment law in Malaysia. Sexual harassment is covered under Part X VA Employment Act 1955. Unfortunately, it has a lot of limitations since 2000. WCC has been spearheading the Joint Action Group for Gender Equality (JAG) to campaign for sexual harassment law in Malaysia. However, the code is not the law, and adopting the code involuntary for employers, as the code is guide for internal inquiry only. It is hardly an effective measure against the problem. First law is the penal code. There are some sections in the penal code which may give some protection. However, this covers the physical form of sexual harassment. Penal Code Act 574, Section 509, or the Kanun Keseksaan Akta 574. Second is an Employment Act. At the workplace, sexual harassment is now covered under Part X VA of the Employment Act 1955. The Act is Act 2265, Sexual Harassment. The last is Code of Practice on the Prevention and Eradication of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace, 1999. The Ministry of Human Resources is using its influence to encourage employers to adopt the Code of Practice against Sexual Harassment and an internal mechanism to prevent sexual harassment at the workplace. This code was introduced in 1999. The Code of Practice of Prevention and Eradication of Sexual Harassment in the Workplace 1999, or Kod Amalan untuk Mencegah dan Membasmi Gangguan Seksual di Tempat Kerja. So this is the chart of sexual harassment cases in Malaysia 2013 and until 2017. We can see that on the 2016 we have the most cases, which is 338 of sexual harassment cases. So next is I will show you an example of sexual harassment cases. First is Anita Hills and Justin Clarence Thomas. The first sexual harassment decision was actually handed down in 1976, but it wasn't until 1991. Confirmation hearing of Justice Clarence Thomas that the accept entered the national consciousness. The country watched live coverage in Anita Hills, Thomas' former college and law professor, accusing Thomas of using inappropriate language and sexual harassing female colleagues when they work together. Since this allegation were never part of a lawsuit, Hill's claims were not proved or disproved, and Thomas denied all allegations. Thomas' nomination was barely approved by the Senate in a vote of 552 until 48. It should be noted that in the year after the Thomas hearing, the number of sexual harassment cases rose by 50%. The second and the last cases is the Paula Jones and the President Bill Clinton. Staying in the rear of the government, President Clinton himself came under fire for illegal sexual harassment. Paula Jones was a state employee when Clinton was governor of Arkansas in 1991. She claimed that Clinton exposed himself and asked her for an oral sex in a hotel room. Clinton denied all the allegations. After several rounds of filing, Jones' lawsuit was dismissed for failing to state a claim. During the appeal process, a settlement was reached. Jones dropped her suit against Clinton in exchange for $850,000. However, she never received an admission of guilty or an apology. Jones' allegation paved the way for investigating the president's sex life. The Monica Lewinsky scandal and the impeachment of President Clinton were big follow-up the Paula Jones cases. So I think that's all for me. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.